Why is feminism a bad word? At its core, feminism is defined as an ideology promoting equality between the sexes. Yet when many people hear the word feminism, they respond with cringes and negative reactions. In fact, many young women shy away from identifying as feminists in order to avoid the scrutiny of their peers, which has further damaged the reputation of the feminist movement. As a whole, the meaning of the word feminism in a cultural context has evolved over time so that it no longer aligns with the dictionary definition, yet carries a much more negative connotation. Dictionaries slightly vary in their definitions of feminism, yet the majority agree on major basic principles. Merriam-Webster characterizes feminism as a theory advocating for equality of the sexes, or any organized activity to promote women's rights. Oxford concurs with a similar definition, focusing on the equality of the sexes. However, the true meaning of words often goes beyond the pure, literal sense, so the history of the feminist/women's rights movement should be examined in order to gain insight into the cultural significance of feminism. The first wave of the women's rights movement in the United States began with the term suffragette, as women in the 1840s advocated for their right to vote. Many of these women, such as Elizabeth Cady Stanton, were regarded as radicals in their time, and the movement ended with the 19th Amendment, guaranteeing women the right to vote. The second wave began in the 1960s and 1970s, as women demanded less obvious basic rights, such as workplace equality. Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique led the charge through a literary perspective, criticizing the then common assumption that a woman's role was in the house. These feminists challenged stereotypes and sparked key legislation such as Title IX. Title IX guarantees women the right to equal funding in education, giving them equal access to sports, which paves the way for professional women's sports leagues like the NBA. Because of advances like this, second wave feminism is still present in the US today, but the modern public is now accustomed to this type of equality. So second wave feminism is dying out because it is no longer very groundbreaking or crucial. The most recent wave of feminism is the third wave, which began in the 1980s and 1990s and focuses on intersectional feminism, or addressing issues of racial and gender equality at the same time. This brand of feminism can be regarded as extreme or radical by many, and some even go so far as to label third wave feminists feminazis. These historical and current waves of feminism address basic human rights such as voting and equality, but as women's status grows closer to the level of men's, the thought of feminism takes a more radical tone.
Feminism is dead.
A Google search for feminism is leads to a top suggestion of feminism is cancer. Many men believe that the focus on women's rights for the past century has limited male rights, and this thought process has spawned the Meninist movement, which originated as a satirical parody of feminism, but is now gaining genuine support. While it may seem that men are the group to blame for coloring feminism as a dark word, both males and females have negative views of the word itself and contribute to its modern meaning. Teenagers of both genders were asked to be interviewed, and many of both genders declined, as to avoid criticism or discussion of the controversial topic. Of those who agreed to an interview, these are their responses.
If you were to say I am feminist or I believe in feminism to a group of people, do you think they would respond positively, neutrally, or negatively?
Probably negative.
Negative.
Typically, I see it as a negative word because if you were to say, like, I identify as a feminist, people will think that you're like, think that women are over men, but really it's supposed to be
According
equality.
to the Washington Post, 50% of men and 30% of women do not identify as feminist, in addition to 5% of men and 2% of women who are against feminism. While these are not the majority, it is still telling that a large number of the public associate feminism with something undesirable. These statistics demonstrate the disconnect between the standard American cultural belief in equality and the lower levels of personal belief in feminism found in the United States. Words have a tendency to evolve, and as time progresses, the connotations of words can be reclaimed positively by minority groups or changed into a more unfavorable term by opposers. In the case of the F word, the word has become more negative as the movement has been perceived as more unnecessary. In other words, as society approaches complete equality, the word feminism takes on a more of a bad word role. Despite the bad rap the term feminism receives, a belief in gender equality has not and should not diminish.
Do you believe that the genders should be equal?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.